You're watching Inside the Americas. Here's a look at what's coming up in today's show. As the Facebook data sharing scandal snowballs, we'll meet the whistleblower who first leaked the story. Then a focus on the pro-gun lobby thousands of American students now have in their sights, the NRA. And avocados are green gold in Chile. We'll take a look at the devastating effect the thriving business is having on the country's water supply. I'm Jeannie Godula. Well, the backlash against Facebook is growing in the wake of the data sharing scandal. That's already wiped over $100 billion off of Facebook's market value. But in spite of new privacy measures announced and an apology from Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, the firm is under fire and could even face prosecution. The scandal stems from one man who said data from some 50 million users was improperly harvested via an app. Rebecca Roseman found out more about the whistleblower bringing Facebook down.
His first public appearance dates back to March 17th. He stands out here for his pink hair, big glasses, and orange sweatshirt. But Christopher Wiley isn't making headlines for his style. At 28 years old, he's breaking his silence. He's accused his former employer, Cambridge Analytica, of collecting the personal information of millions of Facebook users in order to influence their vote during the 2016 U.S. presidential election campaign.
Imagine I go and ask you, I say, hey, if I give you $1, $2, could you fill out the survey for me? Just do it on this app. And you say, fine, right? I don't just capture what your responses are. I capture all of the information about you from Facebook. But also, this app then crawls through your social network and captures all of that data.
At only 16, he left school to work with the head of the Canadian opposition party. Later, he attended law school, then fashion school in London. In 2013, he was hired by Strategic Communication Laboratories, the parent company of Cambridge Analytica, where he worked until 2014. But he waited another 4 years before breaking his silence, motivated by the election of Donald Trump and remorseful for his own role in the misappropriation of personal data. And according to Wiley, the same methods were used to influence the Brexit referendum in the United Kingdom. He's now asked British MPs to investigate another subsidiary of his former company.
You know, you cannot allow cheating, regardless of whatever side you're on. It is an irreversible change to the constitutional settlement of this country. And the idea that there was potentially pervasive cheating on the vote leave side, on the side that I supported, you know, it deeply concerns me.
To prove his sincerity in the matter, during his testimony, Wiley even swapped his sweatshirt for a suit and tie.
Our picture of the week is this one. Masses of students turned out in Washington, D.C. for the March for Our Lives. Thousands of students and activists are calling for tighter gun control and even the repeal of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's a call, though, that Donald Trump has quickly rejected. At the heart of the pro-gun lobby is the infamous National Rifle Association, the NRA. We took a closer look at the links between the NRA and many of America's top politicians, links students are now hoping to break.
NRA. Behind these three letters, one of the world's most influential lobby groups. Founded in 1871 as a recreational association, it emerged as a key political force a century later under the leadership of its then President Charlton Heston. Today, the National Rifle Association has over 5 million members. Most of its funding comes from big corporations, many within the gun industry. The group wields considerable influence in US politics. Here in Florida, many politicians openly support the NRA.
I'm a member. I am a member and receive communication from them.
To put pressure on members of Congress, the NRA publicly gives all elected politicians a grade ranging from A to F. That reflects their voting record on gun rights. A+ is for someone who unconditionally supports all NRA issues, while F is for what the group calls true enemies of gun owners' rights. In return for their support, politicians receive donations from the NRA. The group contributed over 25 million euros to Donald Trump's campaign in 2016. In Washington, a quarter of congressmen and congresswomen have received funds from the NRA. Making generous donations isn't the only way the group influences policy in the US.
Who is she?
She's the lobbyist for the National Rifle Association here in Florida.
Have you seen her?
Yeah, I've seen her a lot. She has been somebody that has influenced the way that bills are passed, what bills are heard, and Republicans are deathly afraid of her.
She may look like an old cat lady, but Marion Hammer is without doubt the most influential gun lobbyist in the United States. At 78 years old, she has spent 4 decades developing and refining some of the most effective pressure tactics in the industry.
She has a list of members, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 members that she blasts emails out to. And then what she does is she gets those people to put pressure on you by them sending emails, calling your phone, texting you, threatening to primary you. If you don't vote their way, they will remove you from office in the next election.
In the wake of the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida, some Republicans have started to waver in their opposition to gun control. But the NRA won't admit defeat. In a video, the group's spokesperson accuses the media of lying about guns and warns,
"Your time is running out. The clock starts now."
Our number of the week is 50 million people who could be driven from their homes in the next 30 years due to the fallout from human activity. A new report from the UN says land degradation is undermining the well-being of 2/5 of humanity, raising the risks of migration and conflict. 3 billion people have been affected already, and the UN says things will only get worse. Well, that report comes as the 8th Water Forum in Brazil wrapped up earlier this month. Countries there were all in agreement, though. There is no time to waste when it comes to a shortage of the precious resource. One key example is in Chile, where the thriving avocado business has destroyed the country's water reserves.
This is Chile's green gold, the avocado, which has become especially popular in Europe and the United States. Last year, the country exported more than 150,000 tons of the fruit, becoming one of the largest avocado producers in Latin America. A juicy trade, but also destructive for the environment, as avocado cultivation requires excessive amounts of water.
In summer, an avocado tree consumes around 230 litres of water a day. With current temperatures of at least 30 degrees every day and unheard-of highs of 37, we have to use more water than ever before.
1 hectare of avocados requires 100,000 litres of water a day, a huge burden for those that live in the region. For 7 years, Karina Torres didn't have running water until heavy rains last year, when it started flowing from her tap again. But outside her house, the drought persists.
About 15 years ago, we started having water problems due to agriculture. They started to dig deeper wells without anyone ever telling them to stop, and our groundwater was getting lower until we had to start getting help from water trucks.
Natural vegetation has all but disappeared, and the Petorica River, where the inhabitants once swam, has dried up. The government supplies the region with water via tanker trucks, but not everyone has access to them. Water management in Chile became privatized in 1981 under the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. According to the latest UNESCO report, more than 3 billion people live in a potential water scarcity zone, and this figure could exceed 5 billion by 2050. Many have left the region, leaving behind their family farms.
Next now to Venezuela, where renowned musician, politician and economist José Antonio Abreu died this week, aged 78. Abreu was best known for creating El Sistema, a network of youth orchestras that's been replicated around the world. The man, who had also served as Venezuela's culture minister, had been battling illness for years. Yuka Broyer and Rebecca Rosman look back at his life.
He studied the piano from an early age, but it was music education that became his lifetime passion. Jose Antonio Abreu created a program that pulled thousands of Venezuelan youths out of crime and poverty through music.
In the future, there shouldn't be a single child or teenager exempt from music in Venezuela. All provinces have to be full of choirs and orchestras. Daily life must be expressed in music.
One of his young protégés was Gustavo Dudamel, who is now the music director of the Los Angeles Philharmonic and one of the world's most highly acclaimed conductors. In a statement posted on his Facebook page, Dudamel said his heart was overwhelmed by Abreu's passing.
The music and arts have lost one of its brightest figures. Maestro Jose Antonio Abreu taught us that art is a universal right and that inspiration and beauty irreversibly transforms the soul of a child, making them a better, healthier, and happier human being, and in turn, a better citizen.
Born in the western city of Valera in 1939, Abreu initially put his artistic aspirations on hold and became an economist, and later entered politics. In 1975, he formed a small orchestra of a dozen young musicians, which developed into El Sistema, a massive network of youth orchestras, choirs, and music centers. Today, the government-financed program claims to put almost 1 million Venezuelan children in contact with classical music.
El Sistema is a utopia with immense energy. It provides principles for all the arts. If I had the opportunity, I would also work to foster a love of sports and science among young boys and girls.
Known as El Maestro in Venezuela, Abreu received numerous international awards, including the UNESCO Music Prize and the Swedish Polar Award. The El Sistema model was replicated in dozens of countries around the world, and in 1995, Abreu was named Special Ambassador for UNESCO. At one time, he also served as Venezuela's Minister of Culture and was critical of recent anti-government protests that rocked the country. Speaking on national television Sunday, President Nicolás Maduro paid tribute to the late Abreu.
Maestro Abreu leaves behind a great legacy of morals, ethics, culture as expressed through the orchestral system. I pass on my condolences to the Simón Bolívar Orchestra.
In a statement written on the organization's website, El Sistema said it would continue playing, singing, and fighting in Abreu's honor.
Well, that's all the time we have for this Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next week for all the news from north to south.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa on France 24 and France24.com.